G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright people, review of the week time. So, before we talk about the boxing news, and once again as always thank you to the Hit Company sponsoring the video, as always, we'll talk about all the fights that happened last night. Okay, because there was 3 main cards of discussion that happened over the weekend. Let's go over to Dubois first, and we'll talk about, realistically, there's only one fight on this card that any of us cared about, which was, of course, Jarrell Miller versus Lucas Browne. Obviously, John O'Carroll won a 10-round UD over Miguel Marriaga, but more so the only fight on there that was really worth talking about was Miller versus Browne. Now, I'm not going to lie, it was a good fight. Alright, it was a good fight. It was fun to watch. I enjoyed it. The first round was a slow round. It was a bit of a feeling out round. And then after that, the whole fight just caught fire. You know, it was just 2 big lumps swinging for the fences, missing wildly, connecting with a few shots. And Jarrell Miller, you know, he is what he is. He is a big, huge... He's like a truck coming at you. And no matter how much you try and push it back, no matter how strong you are and push it back, he just keeps coming, walking through everything you're throwing. And that was the kind of thing about that fight that was just so... It was crazy, you know. Lucas Browne in the past has come into fights like against Dylan White, like against Dave Allen, and he's not really tried to win. And the damning indictment was that against Dave Allen, he wasn't trying to win, yet he was winning, which is even worse. But in this fight, you could tell he was actually trying. And hitting Jarrell Miller with uppercuts, hitting him with right hands, and Miller just keeps on chugging, marauding forward, throwing shots. Both physically, that's got to be draining because you're putting a lot of effort in to try and keep this guy off you. Mentally, it's got to be draining because you're thinking, what the hell? How come this guy is on me like white to rice? And then the fact that you've got a 330 plus pound man leaning all over you and you're trying to push this guy off you, that's taken some strength to do, even for a man of Lucas Browne's size, 280 odd pounds. It's still not enough to keep this guy off you. It's quite crazy really when you think about it. Now, Miller claimed, and you take whatever Jarrell Miller says with a grain of salt, he strikes me as a compulsive liar. He said that he's next in line for Daniel Dubois. Not sure how that can be. I believe if Bacoli is not mandatory, he's certainly high up there. So you would imagine that it's Bacoli. Miller is, as I said, compulsive liar. I wouldn't trust him to tell me the right time in a room full of clocks. So when he says he's next in line for Dubois, I'd interpret that to mean, please let me fight Dubois next. And that's what I'd interpret that to mean. Now, interesting, I seen Dell mentioning this on his post-fight review, that he said he'd pick Jarrell Miller over Daniel Dubois. I see certainly where he's coming from. Now, what I would say there is, if you're talking about the Miller I saw last night against Dubois, that Miller in a post-interview with IFL, I think he even acknowledged the fact that, look, I was heavy, I wasn't in the best shape. He's not going to be much lighter. Like, he seems to be the kind of guy who wants to stay in the 300 pounds. But I think in terms of stamina-wise, sharpness, he wasn't where he should be. So he's acknowledged that, because that Jarrell Miller who fought last night, would I pick him over Dubois? Not necessarily. But could I see how a Jarrell Miller could give Dubois fits? Oh, hell yeah. I mean, you probably couldn't get a worse style for Dubois to go in there with than a Jarrell Miller, because Dubois nearly fell apart in the first round against Kevin Lara, putting a bit of pressure on him. Now, Kevin Lara and Jarrell Miller. Kevin Lara is coming up from cruiserweight. You know, not even a devastating puncher. You're talking about, now, Jarrell Miller isn't a devastating puncher, but he's got over 100 pounds on Kevin Lara. Daniel Dubois is someone who likes to bulldoze his opponents. Very physically strong as Dubois. He would be running into a brick wall against Jarrell Miller. And that's the interesting thing about Miller. You know, that's why, you know, as much of a scumbag as he is, you can't help but want to see how he'd get on in some of these fights. Do I think he'd have success against the elite guys? The Furies, the Wilders, the Usyks? No. But do I think he could make it difficult for some of them? Have some success? Yeah. Against guys like Dylan White, against guys like Joseph Parker, could I see him beating them? Certainly. I mean, if Lucas Browne can't put it in you, I'm sure I don't think Joseph Parker, again, him is a good example against that kind of style. I mean, that is just not a style that would blend well for Joe Parker. I know he likes guys who tend to stand straight in front of him. He can be a bit, flashy with his combinations. But once they start pressuring him and pushing him back, he tends to welt fairly quickly. And Dylan White at this stage, Dylan White actually tweeted that Lucas Browne was something beginning with an S and ending in a T. Or not Lucas Browne, the other guy, Miller. I think it was something like that. Now, White's meant to be out on June the 10th. I know Eddie Hearn has said, whatever he said about Jarrell Miller, but let's face the facts. He said that drug cheats years ago need to be banned, and Canelo Alvarez signed him straight away. I know Alvarez done more to try and clear his name than others, but Povetkin, back-to-back failed drugs test, worked with him, no bother. Miller had failed the drugs test in kickboxing prior to joining with Eddie Hearn, still worked with him. And, obviously the Conor Benn situation, no, because we talked about that too much. We keep going, we won't be going there again until more news comes out, of course. So, would I maybe guess that Hearn might look at Miller? Possibly. I wouldn't like that fight for Dylan White, truth be told. I could see that being a banana skin. I thought Dylan White was meant to be out earlier this year. Well, obviously, this was before Joshua was announced to fight Franklin. You're talking the start of February. They were talking about having Dylan White out sometime in April. Well, obviously, it's not going to be now against Otto Valin. But Eddie Hearn has said it's going to actually be June 10th. He's going to be back out. But against who remains to be seen. Could be Otto Valin against someone like a Jarrell Miller. That'd be interesting. That's the thing about Miller, right? He is what he is. We all know he's a scumbag. He's a compulsive liar. He is just he's just a despicable human being. He is. But as a fighter, I find it entertaining seeing a 300 plus pound guy bulldoze these heavyweights, throwing loads of punches at them and taking whatever they give and just coming forward. There is something somewhat entertaining about that. And again, I could see him. Again, the Furies of the world, the Usyks of the world, they're not going to have any real trouble with Miller. But the Whites of the world, the Parkers of the world, at this stage, the Ortizes, could they have trouble? Yeah, the Dubois. Joe Joyce would be a good one. Joe Joyce is very strong. Very strong. But how would he cope? I guess seriously against the strength of Miller. Miller is a brick house in there. He really is. Then we get on to the Dazn show. This was a next-gen show that happened up in Newcastle. And I'm going to be honest, I only seen Cyrus Patterson versus Chris Jenkins. Very good fight. Very good fight. Cyrus Patterson getting rid of Chris Jenkins in the 9th round and picked up a WBA Intercontinental Welterweight title. Now, I've seen Patterson a few times, seen a few of his fights. He was, I know he was on the Team GB squad. I don't know, did he make it to Rio? Or not Rio, did he make it to Tokyo? No, I don't think he did. Now, I've not been massively impressed by Patterson, I have to say, since he turned over. He's looked okay now and again, but he does tend to get hit a lot. Chris Jenkins, never the biggest puncher, and I think he's seen better days now at this point in his career. But he had moments of success in there. Moving forward, how do I see Patterson faring? I don't know. The jury is still out on Patterson. I remember him, I think it was in the the World Series of Boxing, getting floored by, who was it who floored him? I think he was knocked out in that fight. So I've always kind of looked at him and been a bit like, oh, how is he around the whiskers? How does he deal with, guys who can kind of come with big shots and give it back to him, because he's not the hardest to hit, but Chris Jenkins only 8 knockouts in 23 fights. It's not really an indication that he's coming with a lot of pop in his shots. So Cyrus Patterson, the jury is still out. Jojo Diaz took an L last night. Now I have to say, I haven't actually seen the fight yet. That card was the Golden Boy card. I'm not surprised Jojo Diaz took an L, by the way. I've never rated him. Even when he was undefeated, I wasn't overly high on Jojo Diaz. I was just kind of thinking he's fairly run-of-the-mill. So him losing again, he's really an overweight 130 130 pounder, if even. Like, he was a 126 pounder. I started missing weight at that weight. He started missing weight at 130. I think he's just ill-disciplined, is Jojo Diaz, just to say it the least. Now, that Golden Boy card, right? I'll see if I can find the weight here, actually, if it's on Twitter. But that Golden Boy card, right, was meant to be headlined by, here it is right here, Gilberto Ramirez versus Gabe Rosado. Awful fight. Awful fight. And I saw De La Hoya. Who was he criticising? He was criticising someone. Was it Hearn or was it Warren or was it someone with... Oh, it was here we are. De La Hoya was critical of Hearn for putting on Ryder versus Canelo, right? So I don't... He's critical of that, but he was willing to put this absolute mismatch on. Rosado campaigned as low as 154 pounds. Really, his best weight is 160. Knocked out Bektemir Melikuziev at 168 pounds a couple of years ago, which was a big upset because Bek the Bully was looking good. He was meant to fight Kovalev before Kovalev had that. It wasn't a failed drugs test, but I think it was his testosterone levels or something like that were a little bit too high or something like that. The fight didn't happen. Ended up fighting Rosado. Rosado knocked him out. I think he fought... That was before or after he fought that. I think it was just after he fought Jacobs. And he might have fought Munguia after that, back down at 160. So he's made a big campaign at 160, occasionally going into 168. Yeah, they wanted him to fight Ramirez at 175. Now, I've heard that it's been higher than this. So it's claiming here from Mike Coppinger that it was 182.6 pounds he weighed in at, which was 7.6 pounds overweight. I've heard reports that it was actually higher than that it was as high as 12 pounds. Either way, Zurdo Ramirez missing weight by 7.5 pounds, half a stone he missed weight by. What the actual hell is going on with Ramirez? Seriously. 8 pounds nearly missing weight. This guy, bear in mind, he only moved up a couple of years ago from 168 pounds. He already looks absolutely massive at 175 pounds. Now he's missing weight by that much. That says to me he never even attempted to make the weight, which kind of makes me wonder why the hell you'd even bother even going if you know you're not going to make the weight. Why don't just pull out with the fight? Because they're going to bin it at the scales anyway if you miss weight by that amount. Doesn't matter what you do, even if the opponent agrees to it. A lot of commissions would just say, not going to happen. A lot of them. Not all of them. You'll get some who just don't give a you-know-what. They'll say, fight can happen anyway. But a lot of them would bin it for a weight like that. You know, what the hell is going on with Ramirez? Has that loss to Bivol taken more out of him than we think, maybe from a mental point of view as opposed to a physical point of view? Because I always rated Ramirez highly, as you'll know. No excuse for that. Absolutely no excuse. Nearly 8 pounds. And this is already a guy who's massive at the weight and is fighting a guy who's really a career middleweight. And he's missing weight by that much? Crazy. Absolutely crazy. I don't know how Ramirez does it. You know, Ramirez, he may be the most extreme weight cutter I've seen since Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. As you may remember, when Chavez Jr. was fighting at middleweight, some of the weight cuts he was doing were crazy. He was putting on well over 20 pounds in the immediate time between the weigh-in and the fight. His weigh-ins were crazy. And the thing is, right, when Chavez Jr. eventually fought Fonfara, I think that was at 175 pounds, which is more closer to his natural weight. And Fonfara had been a career light heavyweight. Ramirez, or Cesar Chavez Jr. was the one moving up. He still looked bigger in the ring. So, not since that have I seen weight cuts as extreme as Gilberto Ramirez. He's obviously rehydrating intravenously. He has to be, because I don't know how you can cut that kind of weight and still crazy. So that's Ramirez. Do better. That's all I got to say there. With regards De La Hoya, Golden Boy, Ramirez, you just got to do better. That's not good enough. I wasn't going to accept Rosado as an opponent, despite the fact of coming off a loss. I wasn't going to accept it. A lot of people in the boxing circles weren't accepting it. Do better. Or if you can't do better, move up. So that's what I got to say on that. Now, Frank Warren was on Twitter today. So obviously Arsenal beat Palace 4-1. Obviously City still have a game in hand, but for all intents and purposes Arsenal are 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League. Frank Warren was tweeting about that, saying 8 points clear, even bigger news to come. Right now, I wonder is that because the WBA have now set Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk a deadline of April the 1st for contracts for the undisputed fight must be signed by then, or Usyk will have to make a mandatory defence against Daniel Dubois. So the fact that the WBA are coming out now and saying has to be done, signed and sealed by this day, or else it's a mandatory. Alright? Now, as far as I'm aware, Dubois, is he not still injured? Because I heard it was ligament damage he suffered against Kevin Lara to his leg or ankle. Now, for those who don't, ligament damage is serious. Like that will keep you out of action for a while, like at least 6 months, at least. So I wonder if this is just the WBA in a roundabout way trying to put pressure to get this fight over the line, because obviously they probably, well, most action bodies don't actually like undisputed, to be fair, because they like being able to call mandatories and stuff like that, and a lot of times when one person has one belt, mandatories, you know, that sort of way, you know how that can go. So I wonder if that pressure from them just to try and get this once-off fight over the line. You know, Usyk actually tweeted about Fury where he said, the points for agreement were sent to Tyson Fury's side. The deadline is set. The clock is ticking. The ball is on. Greedy Belly's side now. We did everything in our power to make it happen. And that's what they have. That's what they definitely have done. You know, it amazes me. Absolutely amazes me how these Fury fanboys can actually look. And, you know, these people, these are not real boxing fans. I've said this once, I'll say it again, because anyone with a rational brain would, one, want undisputed. They wouldn't be celebrating at the fact that this fight ain't going to happen, right? And second of all, how anyone who's objective can look at this, see all the concessions that Usyk has made, right, and act like Usyk is the problem. It's actually mesmerising to actually think what is going on in these people's heads. And that's one of the reasons I think as well why we're in this situation, because Tyson Fury has these guys enabling them, you know, that he knows that no matter what he does, he'll have a select group of fans who will give him a pass no matter what, right? Tyson Fury, whenever he's been pushed in the past by people like True Geordie, he's thrown his toys out of his pram. And I wouldn't mind, but if you go back and look at that True Geordie interview, how respectful was True Geordie? Very respectful throughout. Kept on mentioning how good Tyson Fury is as a fighter, and he is a good fighter. He's a very good fighter. But Tyson Fury, at this point in his career, he is chasing the biggest fights for minimum risk. And I think this all goes back to the third Wilder fight. When he got dropped in that 5th round, the second time, it wasn't so much he was hurt. He had that look up at the lights and kind of you could tell the way he was looking up. He had that look of, do I want to continue? Now, he got up, he continued, and he won the fight. When he fought Dillian Whyte, he said afterwards he was retiring. And that was one of the few times where, I know Tyson Fury's retired loads of times in his career, but that was one of the few times where it actually sounded legit. You actually thought, okay, maybe that's legit. Maybe he is actually calling time on it. And I wonder if what he meant by retirement was, I'm retiring from, how would I describe, essentially chasing legacy. You know, I'll fight Chisora a 3rd time, which is no risk, and make a lot of money. I'll fight Deontay Wilder a 4th time. There is risk there, but not as much as it would be for an Usyk. Make a lot of money. I'll fight Ngannou, virtually no risk. Make a lot of money. I'll go for Anthony Joshua coming off the back of back-to-back losses and being mentally, you know, God knows where he is mentally, especially after the breakdown of the ring with Usyk. I'll target that and I'll make a lot of money. For me, that was what it kind of seems it is going on with Fury now. It's like the fights that will make me a lot of money, very little risk, I'll go home with the bag. The Usyk, and people can say whatever they want, oh, Usyk's only a middleweight, oh, he's no good. Don't kid yourself. One, he's not a flipping middleweight, right? The fact that people actually bought by that narrative and still act like it's legit is laughable. It's actually funny. So yeah, Kovalev is a 154 pounder, is he? Because he fought when he was a teenager at 154 pounds. Bernard Hopkins got beat by a 154 pounder. Andre Ward struggled against a 154 pounder. You know, one of the best light heavyweights of the last decade was only a 154 pounder. Well, no one's saying that. Why? Because they know it's not true, right? But Fury says Usyk's a middleweight. You have these idiots, these absolute jokes, these clowns. Yeah, he's clearly a middleweight. What's 2 + 2? 22. Yeah, they're the Fury fanboys in a nutshell. That's what they are. I hope this fight does get made. I hope that that's not Frank Warren teasing something that's not actually going to happen. I really hope it is. I hope we get an announcement for this fight. In terms of April 29th, I doubt it. I think the point has been and gone for that fight in terms of a marketing, the marketing end, the PR end. You're going to try, because April 29th is roughly 5 weeks away, roughly. You're not going to be able to promote the fight the way you're going to want to do, get all the, press tours, etc. It's not going to be able to be done in that short space time. So we're looking at May or June. I don't really care when we get this fight, so long as we get it. I've said this once, I'll say it again. My priority is undisputed. I really couldn't give a rat's furry ass who wins, as long as we get this fight. Number 1 and number 2 in the division, have them whatever way you want. But I want to see these guys go at it. That's my thoughts on that. So hopefully this week we get some clarity in terms of what's happening with this fight. But one thing Joe Stunner said in one of his videos, and I 100% agree with this. If this fight doesn't happen, and it is Team Fury who've caused this fight not to happen, history is going to look back on him the same way they look back on Riddick Bowe throwing his WBC belt in the trash, not to go through with the Lennox Lewis fight. They're going to look at him the same way. So that's what I got to say on that. Eddie Hearn has declared that Lara will likely defend his WBA featherweight world title in a rematch versus Lee Wood or a trilogy fight with Josh Warrington next. Okay, that's going to be interesting. Look forward to seeing Lara Wood 2 or Warrington 3. Well, I'd like to see Lara fight Warrington because I think that rematch left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And I'd like to see him just go in there and finish Josh Warrington. No disrespect to Josh Warrington. I like him. But that was BS, that rematch. We all know it. And I'd like to see Lara get his win. He's already beaten Josh Warrington, but he should have done it again. And we know what happened there. Hearn responds to Joshua Buatsi's Sky Dazn comments. We walked him into a £1 million plus payday to fight Bivol, and he didn't want it. I saw a young man that's been fed a load of BS and told what to say. Honestly, I wish him all the best. Yeah, it's interesting, the whole Buatsi situation leaving the zone. I'll talk more about the zone, because the zone I want to talk about more in a sec when it comes down to their new channel on Sky, and I think that's kind of intertwined with the whole Buatsi thing. We'll get to that now in a second. I'm just going down the stories. This one, when I seen this, I was just like, you've done it, mate. I didn't think you could do it. I didn't think you could dig a deeper hole for yourself, but you went ahead and did it. And you know what I'm going to say? Adrian, the problem Browne. Now he's got a real problem. Do you know why he's got a real problem? Well, for some reason, he's decided that it would be a good idea, I can't believe this, to sign with, wait for it, Don King. Really? You really went and done it. I mean, you've really done it this time, mate. You've really done it this time. With one of the biggest scumbags in boxing, a despicable human being, a man who's ripped off virtually every fighter he's worked with. I mean, and even now, in 2023, still his reputation in tatters, hasn't got a TV deal, he's washed up beyond belief, he's recycling all the same fighters again. And you think that this is actually going to pay dividends? I mean, Adrian Browne, he's about billions. He ain't going to have a penny to his name when this is all said and done. Oh man, that was I didn't think he could do it. I really didn't think he could do anything. At this stage in his career, it's just like, what next? Well, you've gone ahead and done it. Amazing. I'll be looking forward to this one. So on Tuesday, Eddie Hearn will be on Simon Jordan Show for an hour-long sit-down, 11 a.m. to midday on TalkSport Tuesday, March 21st. I'll be having a listen to that. It's going to be very interesting, I'm looking forward to hearing what questions Simon Jordan is going to ask Eddie Hearn, because he does ask the difficult questions. And even to Warren, he does kind of go a little bit easier when it comes to Warren and Fury to an extent, but he still does, to be fair, ask difficult questions. And with Eddie Hearn, certainly in more recent times, you know, when the whole Conor Benn thing happened, it was Kugan Cassius. And then when there was a bit of pressure on him to go on TalkSport, whose talk show does he go on? Flipping Lara Woods, a DAZN employee, who, Lara Woods is a decent presenter, but she's not going to ask difficult questions, especially not to Eddie Hearn. With Simon Jordan, do I like him? Yeah, he's alright. You know, he's alright. There's worse out there than Simon Jordan, believe you me. But at least he asked a difficult question. So it's going to be interesting to see the responses Eddie Hearn gives. I think it's going to clarify a lot of what's going on. So I'm looking forward to having a listen to that and seeing how it goes. Conor McGregor said that he will be supporting and sponsoring Katie Taylor versus Chantel Cameron on May the 20th. He also said he's pushing for Taylor to fight at Croke Park in September. Yeah, of course she is. Of course he is. Of course he is. Of course he is. Believe everything McGregor says. Haha. Clown. DAZN have announced that they will be now launching a TV channel, channel 429 on Sky. DAZN 1 HD. Now, this is actually an interesting one because this is where DAZN made an almighty cock up, I think. Now, they are going and trying to rectify it. You know, when they change things, they do it in a very strange way. They do it in a very difficult way, certainly for the consumer. So originally when this was meant to be launched, okay, so it was a good thing, because to get this into pubs and clubs and stuff like that, you need a channel. Simple as, right? You need a channel. So that's a good thing in terms of getting the zone more accessible. That's fine. Subscribers to the zone, it says here, will include access to the app, but existing monthly saver or annual subscription subscribers won't have access to the zone. I believe the zone have said that they're looking to amend that, but that's pretty poor. So let's say, for argument's sake, right, the zone is on and, you know, we're watching Joshua Franklin, hypothetically. You have it on your TV, but you're using the app and your internet crashes. Gone. Right? You can put on Sky, because Sky, you know, if you have the normal Sky, you don't need internet, you just need a signal, and you can still watch it. Okay, happy days. But that's only if you have the Flexi plan. And actually, I want to point out, the zone, by default, when they brought out their price increase, I only found this out when I actually checked what package I was on. They put me straight on the Flexi subscription, which is 20 quid a month, which I didn't want. So I was like, you could have at least asked me what package I wanted before actually doing it. Because default put me on the Flexi. I was like, I'm not paying 20 quid a month. I'm going back down to the tenner a month. I'll take the yearly subscription. I don't want to pay 20 quid a month. I'm going to cancel it. So they're saying now for the monthly saver and the annual subscribers, so that's $9.99 a month or $120 a month, I think it is, for the yearly subscription, they won't have access to it, but they're obviously looking to change it. I think they need to, because that's a bit of a crappy deal, if I'm honest. I would be saying definitely change that. And if anything, you know, you should be just, if you're paying your subscription, you should have it, you know, at the end of the day. Like, it's like Box Nation. I know it's different, but Box Nation, you pay your standard subscription to Box Nation. In Ireland, we were quite lucky. If you had BT Sport, you actually got Box Nation free. But I know in the UK, it was just you pay for Box Nation, you get it. And I think that's kind of how it should be. I think, you know, I think they did do something in the UK briefly, where if you had BT Sport as well, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I know in Ireland for years it was like you have BT Sport, you get Box Nation free. Even, I think before they had the deal with Frank Warren brought it all over to BT, it was always like Box Nation, you just got it by default over here. Well, I think in the UK it was different. But that's the situation with the zone. So they are trying to change that, or they're trying to amend it for the consumer. I think that this was in the it was in the pipeline, but I think the fact it was brought forward and rushed out of the blocks a bit was in response to the Boatsi basically saying that he doesn't want to fight on a platform no one knows about, wasn't sure how many people watched his fight with Richards. And this was in response to that. I think they've just brought it forward, and I think that they've just maybe made a few little errors with regards who was going to get it and who isn't. They've made a statement saying they are going to rectify that and they are going to have a look into it and, you know, try and get it sorted. I hope they do, because personally for me, I would just say, if I'm doing a live watch along, I'd sooner have it on Sky than I would have it on the app, because when you're doing a watch along, you're using your signal to stream, as well as watch live action, boxing on the app. Whereas if I'm watching it on Sky and I have the stream going, I'm not having to worry about, will this chop, will it buffer, will I miss a few seconds, will I have lag. I have to worry about that. I'll just be able to pop on 429, boom, there it is, and I can just do the watch along as normal. That's kind of why I'd rather have it. I personally would rather just do the TV way. But then again, if I'm not watching along, it makes no difference to me. I think that the accessibility has been a thing with DAZN that they've definitely needed to improve. I know for a while, there's some TVs where you still can't get the app, which is strange. I know TV I have in my living room is Toshiba, and for the longest time you couldn't get the DAZN app on it. It was crazy. Now it actually just appeared on it. I don't even remember downloading it, but it's on it now. Whereas there's some other TVs you can get, smart TVs, where you can't actually get the app. It's crazy. So you're going to have to just Bluetooth your phone to the TV to actually get it to show, which can sometimes be alright, or screen share, which is sometimes can be a bit, maybe it's not what you want. So the fact that it's getting more accessible, it's getting into pubs, that has to be a good thing. In the long run, that's going to be a good thing. So we'll wait and see when that gets launched, how it goes. I think they're launching it for Joshua versus Franklin. So we look forward to that. In terms of everything else, I should say, that's pretty much it. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed the video. We're back to putting this out on a Monday. So Monday morning review of the week as opposed to Sunday night review of the week. We'll see how this does. I'll leave it there, people. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button. I hope that you all have a great week. We all get some good news, myself included. This week is going to be a good week. I just like it. I think this week will be very, very good. Very, very good. I think that we got a lot of good things coming up in the pipeline. Just wait and see. So I'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. For now, lads and lassies, I'll talk to you. Peace.